Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Training, Learning, and Development Community Summer Community Day. Let me go ahead. I'm going to share the screen with Shelley here. Welcome, everyone. Let's see, Lisa and Mike and Cindy. Thanks. People are jumping in right now. Happy Thursday to all of you. Yeah, we've got this Summer Community Day happening, and we're focused today on career development. Very excited to be hosting this one and sharing the day with you. A few things before we get started with Shelley, who you can see on the screen next to me in her wonderful Led Zeppelin dress. I just want to bring up a few things about these events that TLDC produces. I want you to make sure that you take lots of breaks today because we have 9 sessions with incredible speakers. So make sure you take lots of breaks. This isn't like a thing where you got to sit in front of your computer all day and just like zone in on what is happening for the next 10 hours. Definitely make sure that you make time for yourself to be able to absorb the material that you're learning. The recordings are going to be available after the event. As long as the speakers are okay with me sharing whatever recordings, I'll share them with you and you can take a look at them later. But yeah, have a quality day today. I know there's a lot going on. People are doing the ATD thing, and there's always lots to look at in the L&D space. So I'm just thankful that you're here for whatever time you can be with us today, before the Labor Day weekend here in the U.S. Also want to make sure that I thank the sponsors. We had some really, really great sponsors come in. Beyond, IntelliBoard, Scissortail and Kayleen, Ingenuity, Articulate and Rise, Jenny Shepard, thanks so much. And then we had Lectora and eLearning Brothers. Those folks came in and are also helping sponsor this event, as well as all the members that support TLDC and the folks that actually bought a ticket for this one. Really, thank you. Thanks for helping produce this event. Couldn't do it without you, quite frankly. And another quick thing, I want to tell you about the interface, the platform itself. As you know, you're in here, you found your way into the session. Good to have you here. But don't forget, in between sessions, we have a bunch of virtual tables, 8 of them. Well, actually 7 of them. One of them is kind of more of a one-on-one thing, but 7 virtual tables with a variety of topics. If you look in the next session afterwards, that session list or that table list is going to be in there. You can jump into a table and talk with a variety of folks about different topics that you can find at those tables. And it really is a huge part of the event. It's really, really cool to be able to do that. It's one of the funnest parts of doing these for me. Whenever I pop in, even just as lurking and listening, it's incredible. So make sure you at least give that one a try and see if you find some topics that you can learn from, or you can bring some knowledge to. Would really appreciate that. And then also we have a speed networking thing that's going to start. It may have started already, but you can jump into the speed networking bucket, get connected with somebody else who may be in there, talk for about 5 minutes, and then go. That's what this community is about, is connecting people. It's really about you. So please have fun participating with that. And of course, lastly, the booths. If you want to help support the sponsors that sponsor this event, jump into their booth, just give them a shout out, say hi, check out some of the products and services that they have listed out there. Really, really helpful for TLDC and its events to make sure that that exhibitors and sponsors get a little bit of traffic. So say hi to those folks in there. All right. So got that out of the way. We're 6 minutes in, Shelley. You ready for this?
I'm here for it, for sure. I'm ready.
All right. So Weird Girl Adventures. That's the book that Shelley is going to be releasing. When is that one coming out?
It came out in June.
Oh, it came out in June. Okay, I'm sorry. And I'm going to post a link to it and I'll pin it into the chat area. Shelley is a keynote speaker, an author, rock star, mindfulness and edutainer, and creator of The Weird Process. That's WEIRD, if you can't spell. The Weird Process. She is a ball of positive energy. She really is. I have had the pleasure of talking to Shelley a number of times prior to now, and I love talking to Shelley. Shelley speaks out about allowing and amplifying your weird so audiences embrace individuality and land at a place of inclusion. And that is one of the reasons why it was so important for me to have Shelley at this event, because we are all in the feeling sort of this transitory phase in our careers. We all could use some guidance and some help. And I feel like Shelley is a great way to start today. She believes that the key to engagement is belonging, because when we get to be ourselves, we can bring our best to work, to school, and to the world. And and the best is what we all deserve. So everybody, round of applause for Shelley. I'm going to go ahead and hide my screen. If anything pops up, Shelley, I'm going to go ahead and bug you and let you know we have stuff going on in the back. So here we go. Oops. There we go.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I am so happy to be here with you and to get this day started. Yeah, thank you, Louis, for that great introduction. I'm going to kick it off with something weird. I'm weird. I happen to believe that we're all weird, and I have a wealth of experience being a weirdo. And talk about weird. I thought I would never say in my life, I'm broadcasting live from my bedroom. How weird is that? So we've all been there. We may be all feeling weird right now, especially given the last 18 months. So I'd love to share a little bit about me and then just be weird together. So in the late 90s, I had groupies. I really did. I had groupies, and my groupies called my voicemail every week. They didn't follow me around from city to city or stage to stage. Called my voicemail every week because I used popular songs for the hotel industry. I was working in a hotel in downtown Chicago, and I took different popular songs and I changed the lyrics and recorded this new voicemail. And here's an example of one. So it went like this. You can book if you want to. You can book us all the time. And if you don't book, at least take a look. You'll still be a friend of mine. So most of the time, people left me really fun fan voicemail messages. Sometimes they hung up, and I'm sorry, I'm going to admit to you that I am looking at my notes because I'm a little bit nervous. So I'm just going to take a moment. But most of the time they left me fun fan messages, and sometimes they hung up. But one time, a couple people stayed on the line, and I know this because I heard them and my voicemail recorded them. Ew, she is so weird. What is wrong with her? Yeah, something is totally wrong with her. That is just so insane. I know. She does it every week. So instead of feeling like a rock star, I was mortified. I felt like a 12-year-old, the 12-year-old in music class. And one of my classmates is holding up my journal, the journal where I'd written private stuff about me, private stuff about my classmates, and about her. And she's literally pointing her finger at me. You are so weird, Shelley. And in that moment, I became the weird girl who didn't fit in. It's as if I took this itchy, scratchy sweater and put it on in the middle of summer, and I couldn't take it off. I think everybody knows what that moment is like. And it doesn't matter if you're the most popular kid at school or the star athlete or the homecoming king or queen. Everybody knows what it's like to feel weird. Can you remember that moment? Can you remember what it felt like? Maybe you can feel it in your body, in your throat. in your chest, in your stomach, maybe behind your eyes where tears form. They called you weird. They judged you. They made you feel weird. And now suddenly, all you want to do is to belong, to fit in. Merriam-Webster defines weird as strange or fantastic. I define weird as the thoughts and the feelings that we believe separate us. It's those thoughts that make us feel like imposters, like we don't belong. And I have a theory, and it's been proven time and again, that most of us can trace back to this pivotal time where we decided we were weird. And that moment of judgment is when we put on that weird sweater. And it can stay with us for years or even decades. That feeling, that story, it pops up over and over again. And that feeling that we're weird or that we don't belong or that we don't fit in can take us to all different places, sometimes to shrinks, sometimes to therapists, sometimes to life coaches, trying to change something about ourselves, trying to change who we are, what we're doing. And I know for me, that weird, that not belonging took me to all different places. It took me to being an ultra marathoner, trying to run as far away, literally and figuratively, running away from who I was. It took me to living sort of outside in and making my sense of self about accomplishments and accolades. And when you're looking at the world like it's the clothing store for your identity, nothing is going to fit. So, and I'm going to be transparent here. I'm going to catch up with my notes because I am a little bit nervous, and I want to make sure that I share with you what I'm trying to communicate. So, yeah, so many of us, it takes us to a place of shame, and I'll leave that to the other Brene, no relation. At least I haven't done the 23andMe, but wouldn't that be cool? Like, hey, Brene, it's me, your cousin Shelley. So anyway, the separation that we experience from that judgment of our weird can leave us feeling really alone, like we don't fit in for years or even decades. Some of us, as I said, look at the world like it's our identity clothing store. And for me, again, it made me feel so uncomfortable. And I tried everything, even being this horribly anxious, misunderstood corporate and employee. And again, I believe that we're all weird, different weird. And being weird invites envy and applause, rejection and celebration. And let's be honest, when we think of somebody that we consider weird, aren't we strangely fascinated? Oftentimes we give the weird ones our attention, and not always in the kindest ways, especially as kids in school, right? So how many of you notice the messages out there that are telling us we should do something, we should be something other than what we're doing or who we are? You should love yourself. You should Embrace your body. You should always be kind. You should always follow your heart. You should always accept yourself. You should always do that. You should always try that. Good intentions, yes, but I call bullshit. It's actually the name of my next book. Bullshit. What if you can't right now? What if you can't be those things that you think you should be or that others are telling you should be? What if you don't? What if you don't because you're afraid or because it's too hard or because you have these stories of judgment that you just can't? And, if it were that easy, we'd all be able to keep calm and carry on like the sign tells us. We'd all accept and embrace our bodies. We'd all love ourselves and each other. We would always be kind. And the value of the coaching industry would not be projected to reach 20 billion by the year 2022. I know I have, and I think a lot of us succumb to the bullshit of these rampant shoulds telling us who, what, and how to be. And so much of it leads to what I call should shaming and suffering. It's the space between where you are right now and where you think you should be. It's exhausting. And my shoulds, all those things that I thought I should be, that people told me I should be, it really took me to what I consider a nervous breakdown until I began to allow my weird. How did I do this? It's not magic. It's actually mindfulness, and not this kind of mindfulness, more like this mindfulness. I consider mindfulness really to be the bicep curls of our brain that allows us to practice presence and allows us the space to be right here, right now. And Viktor Frankl, who you may have heard of, he's an Austrian psychologist and neurologist and author of the book Man's Search for Meaning, has a quote, and it's probably my favorite quote. And he says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is the power for us to choose our response. And in our response lies growth and our freedom. For me, that's the space of allowing. To allow is to permit. So I began to allow those thoughts, those stories, and that narrative that we buy into, like that one-click button in online shopping. I allowed them to just be there. And then I was able to question with curiosity. Is it true? Do I have to buy it? Do I have to own it? Can I delete it or save it for later, like an item in my Amazon shopping cart? Allowing ourselves to be our own weird invites us to our own authenticity. Don't we want to all be the authors of our own lives? What could happen if we witness the story of our judgment, of our narrative, like it's out in front of us, like it's a movie, so that we can actually see how our minds are making meaning? And what if we could allow those stories and that narrative to simply be there so that we can actually let it go or allow it to pass without going onto like this freight train of our thinking, where we don't have to be the impulse buyer of all of our thoughts? That's choice to me. And it starts with allowing our weird, because allowing the thoughts and feelings that we believe separate us to be what actually connects us then it becomes our greatest connection to others. And we can turn our weird, WEIRD, into a practice and a lifestyle to amplify our own sense of belonging. And this is what I do, and this is what I've chosen to do so that I am not constantly separating myself because I'm suffering in my own head space of fear and regret and remorse and worry and judgment and stories. So I came up with this acronym, this weird acronym, and the W of welcoming, the W of weird is welcoming. So I think we've all done this. Have you ever thought, I shouldn't feel this way? And how did that work? How did that work for you? I shouldn't feel this way, but I'm feeling that way. Or this shouldn't be happening. And it's actually happening, and there's nothing that we can actually do about it. So we're actually arguing with reality. And my favorite is, I can't do this. And meanwhile, you're actually doing the thing that you can't do. So when we welcome those difficult thoughts and emotions without arguing with them or without being in fear and without pushing them away, then we're not resisting them. It's the opposite of resisting. So we essentially get to welcome what is here for us. And then we can recognize that these things will pass, and then we don't get taken down a freight train or down a rabbit hole. And the E of weird is engaging. So there's a saying, and you've probably heard it: dance like nobody's watching. Well, I happen to like to dance as if everybody is watching, but engaging as if nothing matters with our whole selves. It's like giving ourselves permission to just go for it, to just dive in despite the stories that we're telling ourselves. So we get to be in flow. We get to be in the flow of what we're doing, what we want, despite our own self-judgment. And the I of weird is integrating. It's when we get to show up as ourselves. So here's a crazy question. Have you ever worn pants that are too tight and sense relief when you've taken those pants off or unbuttoned them? And I know it's a crazy question because most of us in the last 18 months have been hanging out in leggings and athleisure wear and shorts. So it is totally weird, but it's that same experience when we're integrated, when we make a choice not to be different people based on our situation. We essentially get to take off those uncomfortable, tight pants. And when we're integrated, it gives us the freedom and the ease and honesty. And it's the practice of allowing our preferences, our perspective, and our points of view to be seen, not only for others, but then we get to be for ourselves. We get to be fully integrated. Our mind, our bodies, our physical, our emotional, our well-being, we get to be fully integrated and be for ourselves. And the R of weird is risk taking. So I told you earlier that I'd been an ultra runner, and I made my identity about my outsides. I made my identity what my body could do. And then ultimately my vertebrae collapsed on the nerves going down my legs. And I actually could barely walk for about a year and a half. And I was like, oh my gosh, the one thing that I think makes me is gone. But I started feeling pain, and I kept on running anyway, and until it was too late, because I was afraid to stop, because I didn't know who I would be and it was too scary. And the question with risk taking is, what's the price you're paying when you're not being who you are and doing the things that are not in alignment with who you are? Whether it's a job or a relationship or even the clothes you're wearing. And what's the price of overcompensating when things are not in alignment or when we feel vulnerable? Is it worth the risk? I think it is. I think risk taking is a question that we need to ask ourselves when we want to step out of our comfort zone or change something or try something or let go of something in order to be more of ourselves, not disintegrated, not pieces of ourselves. We get to be all of ourselves and take that risk. And the D of WEIRD is dynamic. You know, at the end of the day, when you're like, I had such a great day, I rocked this day, and everything just seemed to go well, we often use the word flow. And the definition of dynamic is constant change and progress, which is essentially flow. It's the opposite of stagnant, of static, of staying the same. And what makes those days so great is when we get to be ourselves, when we feel like ourselves, when we're authentic and we're not struggling with everyone's bullshit, or our least favorite word, 2 words, imposter syndrome. And I believe that we can all be dynamic. We can all walk into a room, and just by being who we really are, like me, nervous today and going off my notes, but I wrote these, so they are really coming from me, and I lived these words. And even if it's not perfect, I'm in flow, because what I'm saying is my truth, and what I want to offer to you is that we can all be dynamic and attract people to us by being authentic. We radiate good energy, and others feel good being around us because we communicate and inspire and motivate others just with our energy and our truth and our authenticity. And to be a dynamic person is the practice of authenticity. And so when we practice WEIRD, and believe me, it's a practice. It's a practice. We welcome, engage, integrate, and take risks, and we are dynamic. We're no longer fighting against or pushing away who we are when we practice this. We experience our own sense of belonging, and we draw others to us because we're present and honestly a whole lot less stressed. So when you think about people like Andy Warhol and Lady Gaga and Sir Richard Branson and Elon Musk and Drew Barrymore and Billie Eilish, don't you think they all have one thing in common? They're all associated with the word weird, and they deviate from the norm, and they're celebrated because they've allowed their weird. And I have interviewed many people and asked them about their weird. And I promise you, not one of them has said, no, Shelley, I'm not weird. No, thanks. Every person I've interviewed decided from a young age that they were weird. And sometimes it was because they were teased like me. And their weird has ranged from being called a geek, from going to computer sleepaway camp at age 12, to being called bossy pants for telling everybody what to do, to being called names that I won't even mention for their gender identity struggles. And every single person I have interviewed has proven another theory that I have. And that is whatever we think our weird is, we can use it to serve other people. And the computer geek sleepaway 12-year-old used her geekiness to land a position in the Clinton White House administration. The bossy pants woman became an incredibly successful coach who used her confidence in helping people make important changes in their lives through sharing their stories. And the person with gender identity struggles used their experiences as a queer non-binary to create, and I hope I said there, to create a more authentic, connected, inclusive, and equitable, loving world, one person at a time. And then there's me. I get to take my sweater off and make it a cape. And not just be weird, but spread the weird. And so I'm going to ask you to think about, what is your weird? When did you decide it was weird? How does it serve others? Or how can it serve others? And maybe your weird can become your cape. Or maybe it already is. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Shelley. Wow, that was fantastic. I love it. And I think it's a great way to start the day. Like everybody, you do have to inhabit your weird. Like as you're going forward in your career, the transitions that you're feeling, the journey that we're all on, that weirdness is a key part of that. And I don't know, Shelley, do you have any recommendations for folks that are like just out there looking for work or maybe moving into a new phase of their career, and just sort of like how that could relate to their weirdness?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said in the talk, so often it's our own stories and narratives that can get in the way, and I think the practice of presence. And by the way, I'm so not a woo-woo person. So when I talk about mindfulness, when I teach about mindfulness, because I'm a mindfulness educator, I use rock music to help people understand what we're doing. And I don't have any qualms about woo-woo and people's woo-woo stuff. But when we can harness our awareness about the way our thoughts work and the way that we make meaning out of everything, then we're able to see sometimes if we're blocking ourselves, or if we're feeling like, oh my God, I can't do this, or I want to make a change, but I'm too afraid. And if we can just practice that presence, practice being here right now and giving ourselves agency to try and say, gosh, what is the worst that can happen if I try? That is actually a really good place to start.
I love it, Shelley. And I just want to mention TLDC, this community, this is a place for the weird. If if you're a misfit, if you're somebody that doesn't feel like you fit in, welcome to the community, because that's my whole life. And so I really appreciate you, Shelley, coming in and talking about this. I am posting a link now. Everybody, this is weirdgirlventures.com is where you can find Shelley's book. Shelley Brown Official is where her website is. Let me get that pasted in the chat for everyone. I'll send this out in the follow-up for the recording, with the recordings and stuff as well, so you can connect with Shelley. So glad we got to meet each other, Shelley, for this, and that you've been a part of this event. And let's see, if are any questions from anybody? Like, let me make sure that we get this, get any questions answered. I don't see any in the Q&A area at all. But if you guys have any questions, please post them now, and I'll forward them on to Shelley. Otherwise, Shelley, are you going to be able to sort of, cruise around the event for a little bit?
I am, and I want to tell everybody, just so they know, I was asked probably a week ago to share this talk. And if you ever feel like an imposter, you just go for it. I mean, I had this thing pretty much, I had what I wanted to say pretty much memorized, and I got nervous, in all honesty. And it happens, and it's superhuman. And so I think one of the most awesome things about being weird is to be like superhuman, super transparent, and just connect with your humanity about whatever it is. Because if you think it, you feel it, or you experience it, you know that bajillions of others have felt the exact same way. So thanks for letting me share.